Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel. Tap the notification bell. Like this video. That helps me to keep making videos. I'd appreciate it majorly. So, just a few additional pieces of information on the Jeffrey Epstein case. The passport. There's an explanation here that seems to be new news, even though it was said in the bail hearing. Various pieces, of information from the bail hearing kind of seem to be coming out, not selectively, but not all at once for some reason. I think no particular reason, but the explanation from the defense attorneys of Jeffrey Epstein on the passport, and it's Austria, is the country where it was issued from. It was I think they're still trying to determine if it's an official passport, but according to his attorneys, it is, and I suspect it is. And they're saying he had it in his possession for personal protection, years ago. Maybe now too, I guess, but that's what they're saying. And they don't explain how he managed to get it issued to him in somebody else's name. And basically what they're saying is that he had that particularly for the 1980s, where people were being kidnapped and held for ransom, in terrorist events. Jewish people, particularly Jewish Americans, but Jewish people in general, on flights and so forth, and so they're saying he had this in another name, I assume a very a name that's not Jewish sounding, and and that's what it was for. That's what they're saying, and that it expired back at like 32 years ago, and it also had the Saudi home address on it, and that would be, again, sort of, is to protect him, so that people, whoever saw that would think he's Arab or but not Jewish, Saudi Arabia. So I don't know. That's their explanation. They're saying that it expired 32 years ago, and that's what they're saying. There's so many different factors. That's not the only thing at all of why he may or may not receive bail on Thursday. Thursday is going to be a huge day, man. Huge. I already mentioned earlier today that one of the attorneys representing several victims, Bradley Edwards, has basically claimed, that while he was serving his sentence in Palm Beach, in the Palm Beach jail, and he was allowed to leave during for his work release, 10 to 12 hours a day, something like that, 6 days a week. He had an office right next to his attorneys. He was, according to that attorney, Bradley Edwards, he said at least one person had come forward, one woman had come forward claiming Jeffrey Epstein abused her during that time, and that several women had come to that office, and I think he even said some of them had been flown in from New York. It's not real clear, though. It's hard to tell if he's talking about prior incidents before the jail sentence, or if he's mixing the two up, or if he's actually saying that there were women. I believe he was saying women that were multiple women that were flown in, some flown in from New York to, to visit with him in that office, and they were not, they were not coming there for business reasons, but for he was doing improper sexual conduct, that would be in violation of his jail, sentence. Anyways, that's obviously going to be, if a woman's claiming abuse during the time that he was out, serving his sentence, that would almost be like home detention, and I thought I saw it earlier in another report that in instances where somebody's being accused of sex trafficking, if there's overwhelming evidence or something like that, that typically a judge will not allow a person to be released on bail because of the nature of the crime. I thought I read that in one report. I read so many different articles, though, and once if I don't bookmark it or whatever, I can't go back and find it, and I tried. So those are those two things. The other thing, I noticed this dude who's frequently on CNN, Eli Honig, is a former assistant U.S. attorney from the Southern District of New York, in private practice now himself, I'm sure in New York City. He wrote an article about it and about what's going on with the Jeffrey Epstein's indictment is just the tip of the iceberg. What he says, I'm going to just paraphrase, try to cruise through the rest of this interview. This video is that a couple things. One, that this is very possibly going to go to trial. And because of that, any other parties involved are going to get revealed. And basically, if I think a lot of times you get a guilty plea before things go to trial, and then the documentation that's produced as a result of that, they only name this person as person one and person two and so forth, to protect people that aren't charged, and things like that. But if things go to trial, person one, person two, and person three, etc., will get revealed to the public. So it could potentially end up getting charged. And basically, what he's saying here is that that the likelihood that the Southern District of New York would offer something to Jeffrey Epstein that was worth him giving an early guilty pleading to is not high. There's not a good likelihood of that, because of what happened in the Southern District of Florida with Acosta, with Trump's labor secretary, and this is what this whole beef is about, the sweetheart slap on the wrist plea deal that he got back in 2007. The Southern District of New York's not going to get anywhere close to giving him something that's very good, for him to plead to, so he's not going to plead to it. And the second thing is that because of I think the other factor was because of how old he is. It's not likely that that he would plead to something, because that would put him in jail for the rest of his life. So the likelihood is it's going to go to trial. So it could take people down with him. The other thing he's mentioning in here is that the dude who ran the press conference, and I remember when he said this, and he made a point to say it. Berman is his name. It's just a coincidence that he has the same. I assume it's just a coincidence. He has the same last name as the judge, the lead prosecutor, or at least the person who was running the press conference, said not to make a big deal, not to make one. What's the quote here? We do not know. We do not yet know who else might be implicated, but we have an important clue. The Southern District is staffing the case primarily with prosecutors from the Public Corruption Unit. The Public Corruption Unit is running the case, which is very unusual, is what Eli Honig is saying. U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman urged the public not to read into the unit assignment anything one way or the other, one way or another. But that is nonsense, as Honig is saying. You absolutely should read into this. He's basically saying that in a previous case where there was, a prostitution ring that was being investigated, there was somebody who was client 9, and they only had one attorney from the Public Corruption Unit on as part of the team prosecuting that, and it turned out that client 9 ended up being the governor of New York, Elliot Spitzer. So the fact that basically I think there's a team of four attorneys from the Public Corruption Unit, and they're running the case, speaks volume. That it's very possible there's other public officials that are implicated in this, and that's why I'm saying this could be just the beginning, and that other heads will fall. We'll see. I mean, Thursday's a huge day. And lastly, before I finish this up, is that I didn't realize the Public Corruption Unit was, running the case. I knew they were part of it, and I remember that press conference. I remember that attorney Jeffrey Berman saying that. But I also didn't know that Maureen Comey's daughter, she's the lead prosecutor in it, and she's from the Public Corruption Unit. So, and she's the lead prosecutor in the case. James Comey's daughter is the lead prosecutor on Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking case. Here's what we know about it. I'm not going to read that. I went too long already. And that's what's going on so far there. And that's the story there. That's the story there, man. All right, well, thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.